I want to thank all of those of you who worked so hard in this campaign.
The crowd that followed Senator Kennedy into the Ambassador Hotel pantry on June 5th, 1968, had no idea that they would become a part of history.
The first time that I even saw Sirhan was he was draped over the steam table, and he was basically being dogpiled by Rosie Greer and Rayford Johnson and the maitre d', and they were struggling for the gun, and his arm kept coming out, and he kept firing the gun. They just couldn't seem to get the gun away from him until he literally emptied it.
In addition to Robert Kennedy, 5 other people, including Paul Schrade, were wounded in the attack. They were all positioned in a line of fire between the steam table and the west pantry doors. This diagram, prepared by the Los Angeles Police Department, indicates the trajectories of each of Sirhan's 8 bullets. But there are questions about how close Sirhan got to Senator Kennedy. Eyewitnesses in the room placed the gun at various distances.
Just based on the size of the room, he couldn't have been more than 3 feet away.
Carl Euchre, standing between Sirhan and Kennedy, testified that the gun may have been as close as 18 inches. Contradicting all of the witnesses is the autopsy performed by Thomas Noguchi. He claimed that there were 2 telltale signs to indicate that the revolver was held within inches of the victim. Number 1, microscopic particles of soot were found in Kennedy's hair. These small particulates reportedly travel only a few inches. Number 2, powder marks, sometimes called stippling or tattooing, were found on Kennedy's ear. Coroner Noguchi performed ballistics tests to verify the distance needed to cause these powder marks.
Tom Noguchi said that these bullets were fired from near contact range, which means within 1.5 inches to 3 inches at most.
Unsolved History decided to verify these distances on a shooting range with an Ivor & Johnson revolver, the same type of weapon used by Sirhan Sirhan.
The thing that we're specifically interested in are the powder, the soot residues that were, seen on Bobby Kennedy. To get the effects that Noguchi saw, this tattooing and soot effect here, you'd have had to have been very close. For the sake of argument, let's say closer than a few inches.
I see.
And yet, some of the witnesses are saying, well, we saw the gun being fired at 3 feet, at 6 feet. And so what we're trying to do here, really our experiment, is to see just how far away would you have had to have been with the gun to get the effects seen on Bobby Kennedy.
A high-speed camera enabled us to examine the smoke and gases released when the gun is fired.
Okay, Dan, what I need your help now, I need you to look at the computer screen and help me align the muzzles so we get it precisely correct.
All right. Bring it up just a little. A tad more. You're there.
In this first test, our ruler measured only 9 inches. To our surprise, some of the gases were propelled farther than that.
What's that tell you?
Well, I think what it tells you is this is all the stuff that people don't normally see when a gun's fired. You're seeing the propellant gases coming out here beyond 9 inches, and also there's going to be powder residue coming out of the muzzle, and that, of course, can be imprinted on the target. I think what we need to do is actually change the angle here so we can actually see beyond 9 inches. Let's broaden things out a bit and repeat what we've just done.
A second firing confirmed that some of the gases could travel farther.
Michael, look at, there's a tremendous amount of smoke at the bottom, but it appeared like a puff was going right down the end of that ruler over 18 inches. And according to one of the witnesses, Euchre, he believed that the pistol was 18 inches away from Bobby Kennedy.
Well, predominantly what we're seeing here, Dan, is the gas effect going out to the 9-inch mark.
Right.
And then there's a much smaller amount extending forward to 18 inches and beyond.
Is that soot?
Well, partly, yes. And what you will see is that you'll get some visible, a very slight effect, maybe a couple of feet away.
Though the microscopic soot may be there, the question of the stippling or tattooing on the skin is a different matter. A new experiment will be necessary.
We need to fire the gun into white linen at pretty close distances to see specifically this sooting effect and see if we can replicate what was seen on the senator's body.
In their efforts to save Kennedy's life, doctors and paramedics had destroyed most of the tattooing around the fatal shot. But a small section of the outer ear showed telltale signs of close contact stippling. Noguchi performed his own ballistic tests using a pig's ear and determined that a distance of 1/4 inch would be necessary for these markings. For our test, Michael Yardley fires into linen targets, beginning at 18 inches. A close examination of our 18-inch target shows visible particles of soot. Microscopic particles would also be present, but there are no signs of any stippling.
Yeah, you can see quite a clear effect at 6 inches, but it's still not intense.
Test firing continues at distances of 1 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, and finally point blank. The dense stippling can only be seen at distances of 1 inch or less.
It's amazing that the pattern is intense, darker.
And you can see now, you know, how this sort of thing at autopsy gives the game away so specifically.
Oh yeah, it leaves a signature that's undeniable.
The results of these tests verify the Noguchi autopsy. We can only see the intense stippling at a distance of 1 inch or closer. How did the eyewitnesses get it so wrong? We return to our pantry set looking for answers. How could the shots have been fired so close to Kennedy?
Bang! The first shot. Now Kennedy is trapped against the steam table. He can't move because the crowd is pushing into him. Sirhan opens up.